Lexington, like all of America, experienced enormous social and economic changes in the second half of the 20th century. During this period, Davis Bottom both reflected and defied national trends. As families moved to new suburbs, many Davis Bottom residents stayed put. During conflicts over civil rights, Davis Bottom remained an integrated neighborhood. When technology fueled the information age, Davis Bottom neighbors retained ageless values. Throughout this period, Davis Bottom became more and more neglected. The Newtown Pike Extension project was a contributing factor. Originally proposed in the 1930s, the roadway was designed to alleviate downtown traffic. But construction was delayed for 8 decades due to the lack of funding, local opposition, and legal challenges. Uncertainty about the construction project left Davis Bottom in limbo. There were few home and street improvements. DeRode Street never had sidewalks. Yet, despite trying times, the spirit of this neighborhood endured. Today, scholars are interviewing those who know Davis Bottom best.
I remember the old store underneath of the bridge, about that bridge. It was Mr. Hank's store.
Well, some of the peoples live in tents.
The history of Davis Bottom is also found within the memories of residents.
My mother came from Pendleton County, which is up north, and my father came from Berthoud County.
I can remember my dad talking about his father who could play a fiddle.
Family traditions handed down through the generations.
Kincaid Coal Company had 3 little shotgun houses, and we rented one of them. That's where I lived.
In the summertime, we didn't have no fans, and it sure was no air conditions back then.
I remember in the summertime sleeping out on the porch. Loved it.
And first-hand accounts about life in the Bottom.
It was a lot of fun down here, and everybody was just like family, really, you'll know truth.
In Davis Bottom, we didn't have everything that we wanted, but we had everything that we needed.
Oral histories are another way scholars and residents are preserving the legacy of Davis Bottom.
I think oral history has a huge role in our consideration of the past. At a very general level, it provides a different source of data, often filling in gaps that we cannot reach using the standard documentary history records such as tax records and deeds and written histories, even diaries and letters. Related but slightly different is the fact that oral history also allows us to greatly increase the range of perspectives that can be brought into the conversation on the past.
Numerous residents have generously contributed family photographs and memories to the Davis Bottom History Preservation Project. These rare materials will become a precious resource for residents, researchers, educators, and students. The interviews reveal that despite economic hardships, Davis Bottom was an incredibly diverse, safe, and close neighborhood.
I remember this being a real tight-knit neighborhood when we was growing up. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody cared about everybody.
Well, I loved living down here. I loved everybody around here because they was real friendly and everybody was close. And all of us just grew up together. It was fun going to school and playing with kids around here and everything. We just had a ball.
I was talking to people about doing history and stuff down here, and there's people that's lived next door to people for years and years they don't even know their names. We know their names, we've sat up with them, we've cried with them, we've partied with them, we've laughed with them, we've prayed with them.
Well, it's a loving place to live, and everybody lives here as sweet as they can be. And they help each other and everything. And they're just, you know, good to people. really good to people.
You can guarantee your neighbor would be right there. If something happened, your neighbor would be right there to sit there and hold your hand.
It's just a homey community. Now, that's what it's all about.
It was like family. It wasn't just like your own relatives. It was more like the whole neighborhood was a family.
They talk about integration. We were already integrated. Blacks and whites lived next door to each other. We played with each other. We ate with each other.
Race, it didn't make any difference what color you were. You were welcome in anybody's house on the street. All the older people down here, didn't matter who you were, where you were from. If they thought you were doing something wrong, you get corrected, and then they go tell your parents.
Everybody did look out for each other. Put it this way, if you did something wrong, your parents knew about it before you got home. Everybody could not wait for the summer, for the games to start. Most of it was like a big old family reunion.
Oral histories also provide insights about daily life, neighborhood events that rarely make history books, including summers at the ballpark.
I can hear the sounds right now, and I can, just in my mind's eye, I can see how the kids running and playing and everybody sharing food, picnicking, and the games going on from early morning until sundown. It was just absolutely the best atmosphere ever.
They had music, and me and my husband at the time were dancing down around our 20th anniversary, and they played music.
And the ball games brought back people that we may not have got to see for many years, but once they realized there was ball games going on down here, it brought a whole lot of people back to the neighborhood.
People from all over Lexington, and people would come from out of town.
Plus they bring teams from out of town to play the local teams.
People would come from Louisville or Cincinnati to these games sometimes.
The park was very, very important. It kept this community a community until the park shut down. That's when we kind of lost contact with a whole lot of folks.
He lived at 833 DeRoe Street, or he did.
He did, okay. Working class communities have been the focus of much of the recent research in social history, but yet they're still often underrepresented in the documentary record. And so oral history sometimes is the only way to reach some of the experiences of these communities. And I think especially if you think about the fact that so large a percentage of our population in this country grew up in working class communities, it means we have a huge audience out there that can potentially relate to these experiences as they're shared by the residents of Davis Bottom and similar communities.
In 1963, Isaac Hathaway retired from Alabama State College. He returned to Tuskegee, where he maintained a home studio until his death at the age of 95. Over the course of his long career, Hathaway memorialized over 100 African-American leaders. He broke numerous racial barriers, helped establish ceramics departments at 6 colleges, earned a host of national and international distinctions, and influenced countless students. Several institutions are preserving Hathaway's incredible legacy, including the University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff.
Hathaway had to be viewed on many planes. He was an artist, he was a scientist, he was I would say a chronicler of history. He was a historian that he left for all to see what many of these people look like. But he was a craftsman of the first order. I mean, he mastered the craft.
The Mosaic Templars Cultural Center also preserves Hathaway's artwork and professional papers. This extensive collection has been transformed into a popular exhibit entitled Capturing Greatness.
He met a lot of his contemporaries and he preserved their images and art. And so he is, to me, a unsung hero of African-American history. He is a undiscovered treasure for not just African-American history, not just Arkansas or Alabama or Kentucky history, but for the entire United States. And it's a history that we are proudly telling here at the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center.
Back in Lexington, the Isaac Scott Hathaway Museum is preserving the life of a favorite son. through research, exhibits, and educational programs. Once the Newtown Pike project is complete, the museum plans to build a memorial park on the site of Hathaway's childhood home.
This small man from Davis Bottom, one of the lower-lying parts of Lexington, no one ever thought anybody of importance could have ever come out of Davis Bottom, and he did. Very quiet, very assertive young man that rose out of a time period when this wasn't supposed to happen. He had no role models, had none. His family economically wasn't of the upper middle class African American. It's just an amazing story.
In 2007, government officials approved a final plan for the Newtown Pike extension. Under the plan, the road is being built in phases. Displaced residents have been provided temporary homes within Davis Bottom, and the Lexington Community Land Trust is helping residents purchase new homes in what will become the South End Park Urban Village. Davis Bottom has changed forever. Yet the history of this remarkable neighborhood has been preserved for future generations.
Well, oral history is often done as its own undertaking, you know, very successfully. But I think when it's done in conjunction with other investigations, anthropology, history, architectural history, material culture studies, we can get a sort of synergistic effect where the whole that we achieve is much richer than the sum of all the parts.
It is so important for us to put that anthropological, what we would call, or the human face on the neighborhood, and it's important to tie in that past then with the present day, with the people who still live there now or who lived there recently, and we can tell a story about the neighborhood that we couldn't do otherwise without having this archaeological data.
I think it's really important to take a look at history. It says a lot about who we are and who we've become as people now.
The settlement of Davis Bottom was important to the growth of Lexington. It coincided with expansion of industry, expansion of the railroad, expansion of the tobacco industry, certainly.
You can learn so much from the people that lived and worked there. And I think if you're able to learn about a neighborhood, you begin to appreciate it. And that's when it becomes alive.
I think Isaac should be as well known as any other artist that was from Kentucky.
It is a rich history and a long history. So to preserve it means that our children's children will have an opportunity to learn and grow and benefit from the groundwork that's been laid here.
It's as vital to Lexington as Mary Tom Lincoln's house was. And our people, our folks, our neighbors cannot experience transformation if they don't have a grounding in knowing who they are. And I think that's important.